All right. Welcome. Sorry we're a little bit behind.
Okay.
And we're live. My name is Ivy, and I'm the marketing manager for Michael Schaap's Wineworks. And thank you so much for tuning in for the third and final tasting of the gold medal wines from the 2020 Governor's Cup. This week we have the last three, which are the 2017 El Scott, the 2017 Petit Verdot, and the 2016 Raisin D'Être blanc. These wines, if you like them, are going to be on sale for 20% off only until tomorrow, as well as the 7-pack, which is on sale for 25% off right now. So after tomorrow, then they're gone until we release them. And yeah.
Great. Well,
Let's get started.
this is our second attempt at this.
Yes, so we just...
we were not on the right Facebook page.
We were on the wrong Facebook page, so we'll try to delete that.
Not repeating for some of you, I think. But
yeah.
Anyway, our last of the series that Ivy's put together of these tastings, and we decided to do it at a different location today. We did it at, the first one was at the Tank Room at Harris Creek, and then the Barrel Room there, and then now we're here at our Avon Street location in Charlottesville, which is our bottling facility and our warehouse, as well as the location for our tasting room in town. And you can see the bottling line here and some tanks behind us, and this has been a real helpful, useful facility for us since we ran out of room at the main winery location. We've been utilizing this location for the past almost 5 years. So it's been great to be here in downtown Charlottesville. And so we are planning some other events, some other tastings in May. And the next concept that we came up with is to do some library vertical tastings and of the Virginia wines. And we're going to do a Meritage limited release of the 2007, 2010, and 2014 Meritage 3-pack that we'll do, but it'll be limited in terms of the quantity. And might even do that on Zoom. I'm thinking maybe since it's limited, we could probably do a Zoom tasting and interactive with people.
Yeah,
so,
that'd be cool.
So anyway, we're working on that for May.
Yeah,
we'll
let us know
any ideas that you have
ideas.
if you enjoy these and want us to do some other types of tasting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think ultimately I'd like to do at the end of May is a virtual tasting in France at our winery in Meursault. So that's hopefully we can get back there at the end of May is my goal.
Can I come?
No. You need to stay here.
Okay.
So and hopefully that will be something we look forward to and do a tasting as well at the same time from me being at the winery in France and you guys here.
That would be really awesome.
So
should we get started?
Yeah, let's talk about these wines, the last three, and we'll start with the El Scott.
The El Scott.
Yeah.
Let's pour it. Everyone,
Yeah.
open your bottles, please.
Hopefully everyone has wine in their glass and the wines are breathing and ready to taste.
Yeah. So for the El Scott, how did you come up with this wine? What's the name about?
Well, in 2012, I decided to. I really wanted to come up with a new proprietary blend, and decided to pay tribute to my late brother Scott, who battled Lou Gehrig's disease for 10 years, and I really wanted to make a special wine that was really a unique blend from our best grapes that we could really, make something that would stand out and be a really special wine. So I decided to use Tannat that we have from our Honolulu vineyard, and Tannat is just one of my favorite grapes to grow here in Virginia, but it can be pretty intense, pretty tannic, a heavy wine. So I wanted to do something to make it a little more complex and a little bit more approachable.
Okay, and so what else is in the blend, or is it always the same?
So the concept is to make it a Tannat-based blend.
Okay.
And I'm also really fond of Merlot,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the combination of Tannat and Merlot really work well together. And then usually there's Malbec as well. And some vintages I've added some other things, but there's been a tiny bit of Petit Verdot or Cabernet Sauvignon. But those three varietals have been the basis of this blend and are in every vintage. And it's usually a majority Tannat blend. So this vintage here, the 2017, if I recall, 63% Tannat, 25% Merlot, and it's 12% Malbec.
Okay.
Does that add up to 100?
I don't know.
Yes.
Can't do the math right now.
Anyway, so that's the blend for this year. And what I like about the combination, you get the Tannat, it's pretty tannic, structured up front. You really feel the Tannat. Merlot is really adds some nice weight and length in the mid palate. And the Malbec, the bright acidity and fruit of the Malbec kind of pops at the end. So it kind of all really meshes together nicely. We aged this in oak, in French oak, for 22 months. And this vintage in particular was fantastic. 2017 was just a phenomenal year, really ripe vintage with really big concentrated fruit. And normally, even with our Tannat, I use a little bit heavier amount of new oak because it really, the Tannat just soaks it up and it really integrates easily, doesn't overpower the wine. So in this vintage, this blend here actually has 80, was it?
Is it 80?
Over 80% new oak in this blend.
That's a lot.
Yeah, which is
And
the most
usually
I've ever
50.
done. I've never put more than 60 or so percent in a wine, so this is pretty intense for new
that's
oak.
interesting.
But you barely, really don't even pick it up as it's there, it's a nuance, it's
Because of the
helps,
Tannat?
the Tannat just really absorbs it and it blends in pretty easily.
Okay.
So yeah, we can taste while we're,
Yeah. What do you smell?
so for me, and this is a young wine, these blends, the El Scott, really are meant for aging. The current release right now that we're selling is a 2014,
Yeah.
I believe,
Mhm.
right? So our current release is the 2014. This won't be out for quite some time, probably a couple years at this point, until it's officially released.
Wow.
So this was bottled last summer, and we'll age it and it will evolve in the bottle here in our cellars until it's released. But at this point right now, if you have some and tasting it, that young, dark fruit, and I get actually for me, I pick up a lot of almost like a cherry cola kind of characteristic to it.
Yeah.
You have some eucalyptus, dark cherry notes. It does have some really nice spice and cedar characteristics as well.
Yeah, I definitely get all of that. The cherry coke's interesting.
Yeah, that to me is when it's
cool.
young like that, it's a combination of the extraction from the oak and with the fruit that I think the vanilla and the little bit of the toast kind of helps bring that out in the
Right.
wine. And hopefully people are commenting. Please,
Yeah, I'm looking.
Ivy's got her computer. She's checking comments,
We have
questions.
a lot of people saying hello.
Oh,
So.
I can't see. That's why we have Ivy's.
So hello.
And yeah, so we're this wine really is stylistically something like kind of varieties that work well here that kind of represent that line from Bordeaux down southwestern France, Madiran, Cahors. Those are the varieties that are in this wine, from the Merlot to Malbec to not really stretch down. So, in theory and style, it's you kind of hoping for that southwestern French varietals and style of wine.
Okay, and so compared to southwestern France, what are the differences in growing conditions of the grapes?
Actually, there's a lot of similarities here.
Really?
Yeah, this is as you get down towards the more southwestern part of France, it's more similar to the conditions here in terms of the heat and moisture and elevation and the overall growing season. So there's actually a lot of similarities, and that's why these varieties, well, the varieties these are three of our top varieties here in the state. So.
Sounds like it fits well.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
It's very smooth for being this young.
Well,
I really like it.
I think it's got a ways to go to evolve.
And how long?
This wine, yeah, I mean, this style wine with the Tannat and the Merlot that are very tannic and structured, and the aging will age 10, 15 years, especially from this vintage. This was really a spectacular vintage.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
And food pairings with this, I really think kind of go back to that part of France and what's popular there. Duck confit was an ideal pairing for this.
Yeah.
A little bit more fattier meats, higher acidity meats as well, steaks, and anything with a little spice note really works well with this.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if we have any questions on this wine.
People are saying it's delicious now.
Oh, good. All right. Yeah.
Should we move on to the Petit Verdot for now?
So the next is the 2017 Petit Verdot, and So I didn't mention, but the location on the El Scott was primarily between Honolulu Vineyard and the Rougemont Vineyard, and with the Malbec coming from our vineyard up in Percival Wild Meadow Vineyard.
Okay.
Petit Verdot for this vintage is 100% from the Rougemont Vineyard.
Oh wow.
And it was a special vintage there. It was the second, no, actually it was the third crop of grapes from that vineyard.
Okay.
And it was just a really incredible growing conditions for the Petit Verdot that year. 17 came in super ripe. There's some fruit flies here.
Yeah.
So that we have wine open.
They're all here.
Yeah, hopefully you can't see them.
Yeah.
But the Petit Verdot is really the workhorse grape here in Virginia in terms of this area in Charlottesville and throughout Virginia. The reason being that it's a very easy grape to grow compared to other varieties. It's consistent year in, year out, and even in difficult vintages. The tiny berries, thick skin, really holds up well to our humidity, the heat and the climate, the rainfall. And so this grape ripens with intense color, lots of tannin. And why it does so well here is because normally it's a higher acid grape in Bordeaux and other regions in France. And so it can be too acidic in some parts of the world. But here with our heat and humidity, it ripens really nicely, and the acids drop out as we get towards ripening, so it's really more balanced. And so that's why we can do a varietal wine where a lot of regions can't, because it tends to be too acidic.
Yeah.
So
I haven't seen many of them elsewhere.
you'll find in California and in parts of France and Petit Verdot, and now it's grown pretty much everywhere, Spain and South America. But it really seems to be a variety here that we're getting known for. The quality here has been consistent throughout the state, and we've gotten great reviews from all kinds of publications for Petit Verdots in Virginia. And there's a lot of single varietal, but as we talked about last week, it's really the base wine for a lot of red blends here in Virginia. So our Petit Verdot, this variety, this vintage that we do, was aged for 22 months as well, and about 60% new oak. Super ripe grapes, so you get this lot of dark blackberry notes. You get a little earthy notes. You get some almost a tar characteristic, but the dark fruits really what I think brings people into this wine when you smell it. And the oak is young wine. This wine, we're currently, I think, on the 2016 vintage.
We're on the 16, yeah.
So this will probably be released this fall. So it'll be a full year in the bottle after almost 2 years in barrel. So by then it'll kind of evolve and round out, but it's right now very expressive, dark, dense. This is really, I think, after 2005 and 2007, this might be the strongest vintage I've come across in terms of just overall intensity and quality of the wine. Really big wine. Yeah, a lot of dark,
That's really
dark
nice.
plum, black plum notes and deep concentration. And right now, just the tannins are pretty aggressive right now. So it's this wine as well will age and considerably, and we're still enjoying some of the older vintage. 2005 was the first vintage I made as a varietal under my label. I've been working with Petit Verdot since the late 90s in Virginia, but finally produced one with the 2005 vintage.
Okay.
Yeah.